Is that the case? Because we can inference based on the author's intentions that that's what he believes. How do we determine the intentions? Well, we see, is this arbitrary? Is this sporadic? Is this haphazard? This idea of that's expressed in the Bible that the author then changes? Is this systematic, or is this arbitrary, random? This happens and the author doesn't know what's going on. Quite obviously, it's the former, not the latter. And the fact of the matter is, it's because we have major themes being adjusted, such as prophets committing major sins. I showed you Aaron, I showed you Moses, I can show you multiple others within the Quran, relieving these prophets from these major sins. This is intentional edits, not unintentional. Now, if you're going to say the author can't distinguish between what's in the text and what's oral, and he only thinks he's editing the oral stuff, then you need to justify that. Because I can equally say that the author of the Quran, he is editing material. Even if I grant you he's taking from oral traditions. He hears stuff, okay, I'll grant you that even. He hears stuff, and yet when he hears stuff and he contradicts what he hears, he knows possibly what he contradicts from what he's hearing comes from the text. The author is comfortable with that fact. And then he adjusts, and he adjusts, and he adjusts, and he adjusts, and he edits and edits and edits, knowing in fact he is possibly editing the text and has no issue with that. The author of the Quran has no issue at all with the possibility of editing texts that the Jews and Christians have. Now, why is it okay, this is one of the arguments he was making, which is, why is the Quran saying confirming, guidance and light? He's written in the Torah and the Gospel. Why is the Quran reiterating all these points? Well, it's not much of da'wah to a Christian and a Jew to say, oh, your books are corrupted, convert to Islam. That's not the Quran's way of da'wah. The Quran's way of da'wah, inviting Christians and Jews to Islam, is, I'm optimistic with what you have. With what you have is sufficient to prove continuity. Come to Islam. Your books prove Islam. The argument in the Quran isn't mainly textually your books are corrupted and there you go, it's all distorted, it's all lost. That is not, no one from the Salaf used that way of da'wah. Rather, what they say is, yeah, you have corruptions. It's clear from the internally that you have corruptions. But at the same time, we have chapters upon chapters upon chapters of the Salaf showing that they have the description of the Prophet in there. So it's not much of a case of inviting someone to Islam to just tell them all your books are corrupted, right? What's more effective is to say that the Prophet's descriptions is in there. The law is in there. There's true parts. Implement those true parts and you will notice the continuity within Islam. Okay? Now, a lot of the stuff that the Quran actually confirms as well, and the stuff that it denies, is intuitive, and most people would already say, yeah, that makes sense. Prophets committing major sins after being anointed by God, chosen over everyone else, they are going to commit sins that even average people don't commit. I mean, I don't know anyone personally that commits murder, and yet Moses is meant to be the best prophet. But obviously behind Jesus. I know many Muslims and Christians. I don't know any of them. Yeah. So I know many Muslims, Christians, Jews that aren't even that religious and yet still don't commit these major sins, major abhorrent sins. Right? So just intuitive already, a lot of these stuff already intuitive. And the internal critique already is demolished by the conscious edits point. So I am addressing other external things that he was mentioning. But the internal critique is already demolished by the conscious edits. He's not actually showing that the author of the Quran doesn't intend those edits I mentioned in my intro. Okay? Because he did say he doesn't believe it's conscious. Show it is not conscious. So show it is not intentional. I gave you reasons why it's intentional. There's wisdoms, there's hikmah, there's wisdoms behind these edits. I'll give you another one. Surah Maryam. In Surah Maryam, we see an equaling between John the Baptist and Isa alayhi salam. Whereas in the Gospel of Luke, we have the opposite. Zechariah says, How is it that my wife will give birth if she's barren? He gets punished for that. In the Quran, he doesn't get punished for that. In Surah Maryam and Surah Al Imran. Right? And then when Mary says the same question, how can I give birth if I'm a virgin? I haven't been touched by anyone. Right? Does she get punished even though she's asking the same question as Zechariah? No. So obviously these authors are making a distinction here that anyone can see independently. It doesn't make sense. But when you look at the Q document, and I'll bake you on the Q document, the fact that it exists, if you're going to say it's just a hypothetical document. Well, yeah, it's a hypothetical document that scholars believe they need to posit out of necessity to make sense of the data. In the Q document, the earliest gospel we have, you see an equaling between Jesus and John the Baptist. So what you see here is not just a conscious edit on the point of John the Baptist and his father, but it's also something that was reviving the earliest historical memory of John the Baptist and Jesus alayhim salam. So yeah, that's the end of my 10-minute rebuttal. I mean, are you going to add an extra 30 seconds?
30
Yeah, I
minutes, 30
appreciate, I
seconds.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like
Yeah, I
that.
can
You
have
guys,
another 10
just
seconds.
for the gifts, and that goes for both of you guys. For the gifts that are coming in, you guys are going to get an additional 30 seconds just to finish up your point.
But by the way, just FYI, I did notice when it was my time, there was no 30 seconds.
I know, Jay. I got you. Yours.
We can start from now.
Yeah, we got
I
it.
don't
From
mind.
now on, each one of you guys get an additional 30 seconds for the gifts. Thank you, chat, you guys, for gifting these guys. Appreciate you guys. But go ahead, Dean. You're gonna get an extra 30 seconds, bro.
Appreciate it.
Same thing for you, Jay.
Yeah, so Leafy, you're going to put 30 seconds or?
Yeah, I'm counting it down. Just when it gets to 9:30.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's one for sure. All right. So yeah, just start from now. Okay, beautiful. So just to end this off, he needs to show that the author is not doing it consciously. That the author rather is doing it haphazardly. He's doing it randomly.